Okay, so just to bring everybody up to speed and pull you into the conversation, Neil and I were having a great chat about post-conventional organizations. These are companies that actively disrupt their business model before other people do it to them. And then Neil comes out with this really bold statement about how all the car manufacturers in the world, like Ford and Mercedes and BMW and Toyota, should be really panicking right now because they're basically all doomed because Tesla's changed the paradigm, not just for their company, but for the industry at large. And I had to stop and just say, right, we need to press record on this because we have so many great conversations, Neil, and more people need to hear what you've got to say about this. So start from the top. Why should these car manufacturers be panicking and what can they do about it?
so I mean, I love this question. I love this question. If you realize that your business model is doomed, when is the right time to panic? And I have asked that question a number of times to a number of different sectors. But for car manufacturers, I think, yeah, serious. So look, everyone's used to the disruption that's going on, Tesla disrupting combustion engine vehicles, and that's been going on. Tesla started in 2012, and I don't think anyone thought that this was going to happen, but it really has. And there's this huge shift going on, and nearly all of the car manufacturers are desperately scrambling to have electric cars, which is great. And many of them are doing a really good job, and I take nothing away from them. You know, I'm not totally happy with the idea of just sticking a battery into a combustion engine car, but you know, it kind of works, and great. So you know, hats off to all of them for the pivot that they've undergone. No problem. That's not the disruption I'm talking about. So the first thing to know is that Tesla is 4 times more profitable than the next most profitable car manufacturer right now. So Tesla makes on average about $8,000 per car that they sell. And the next most profitable is GM, who make $2,000 per car that they sell. Other car manufacturers, particularly the Chinese, interestingly, sell most of their cars at a loss. And you know, Ford, for example, after the recent Tesla price cuts, Ford was also announced price cuts, and it's believed that those was being sold at a loss after those price cuts. So you know, so that's number one. Okay, your huge disruptor is already 4 times more profitable than you are. I'm already scared. But the next bit is that Tesla had an investor day, which the bit that came out of that, which was truly terrifying for the conventional car manufacturers, the OEMs, is that Tesla are innovating their manufacturing to the point where Tesla will halve their own manufacturing costs, halve their current manufacturing costs. So they're already 4 times more profitable, and they're going to halve their manufacturing costs. Now you're in a position where Tesla can afford the mother of all price wars. So the car manufacturers have all scrambled to electrify their fleets. They've not really been able to do it very profitably on the whole. And now Tesla have, you know, kicked the can so far down the road that it's like, wow, okay, now what?
So now what? What you can say really, what you're saying here is the OEMs can either copy it, which is like chitty chitty bang bang when the Baron can't steal it, and then asks his engineers to create, you know, a version of it, but it's not as good. Obviously, they can learn from the car manufacturing processes and maybe, you know, make some efficiencies there. But I mean, there's got to be something else, right? There's got to be something in here around mindset and how that actually works.
100%. 100%, but it's not as simple as copying. I mean, exactly to your analogy there, you know, the Baron Baron Blomqvist's, his version of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was rubbish. It couldn't fly, it couldn't float, it couldn't do it, looked terrible, couldn't do anything. So just copying doesn't do it. And just to go through this in detail. So the OEMs, they largely outsource the supply of parts. So the components that the motors, the wheels, the gearboxes, the seats, lots of stuff they buy from outsourced suppliers. Tesla makes it all. They make their own computers. They make their own touchscreens. They make their own, they do their own software. The OEMs are outsourcing all of this. So that vertical, Tesla are talking about mining their own lithium and stuff like that. That vertical integration gives Tesla enormous flexibility, both in terms of innovation and in terms of cost. So, and that's not, sure, it's a cultural shift, but it's a huge practical shift as well. So that's one. The second one is Tesla sell direct. So the conventional car manufacturers all sell through dealers, whom they have to give a 15 to 20% discount to. And that relationship between the manufacturer and the car dealer is, that's not, you can't just stop that overnight. The car manufacturers don't have the infrastructure to sell direct. They don't have it. This doesn't exist. Some of them are, I think Mercedes and some of the others are playing with direct sales over the internet, and most car manufacturers have some wholly owned dealerships and that sort of thing. So they do a bit of it, but to do that wholesale, really tough. The other one, maybe this is a bit more contentious, but just try this. This is good fun. Google Nokia product range 1997, or what was it? 2007, wasn't it? And you will see that Nokia had something like, I don't know, let's guess, 150 different models. And what disrupted Nokia? Nokia was demolished by the iPhone. How many iPhone models? One. And so what Tesla do, so all of the car manufacturers have a broad range of models, and they do lots of different variants of those models. Tesla do very few, and that keeps the manufacturing costs down. And if you're doing, they do, I don't know, 3 or 4 variations of the Model 3, 3 or 4 variations of the Model 5, 4 or 5 colors, very few colors available. Now you can criticize that, but it's so much cheaper to make that. And of course, Tesla customers apparently have been conditioned to accept that. They're okay with that for now. Whereas, if you buy a BMW, you want to be able to choose 1 million different variations. Conventional car manufacturers sell cars and sometimes trucks and sometimes vans. Tesla sell cars and trucks, or they're going to sell trucks. Well, they do sell now, selling trucks, but they also sell batteries and solar, software and robots. So, it's quite a different model. And then Tesla, so car manufacturers invest massively in new models. What Tesla are doing, interestingly, is they're investing heavily in manufacturing and manufacturing technology. And that's really what's helping them to drive down the cost. So there's a lot in there, and then of course that just takes you straight back to leadership, because it's down to leadership to change anything. And so you've got, in those conventional car manufacturers, you've got a leadership. And we've seen this in the sort of boardroom battles over the last few years at VW, at BMW, at Mercedes, Toyota. They're all desperately trying to figure out the future without destroying the past. And they don't know. So first step, what's your vision? And by the way, that vision cannot be, we're going to sell a gazillion cars and make make our shareholders and our senior executives really, really rich, because that vision doesn't wash. Tesla has a vision to accelerate the adoption, to accelerate the end of fossil fuels. That inspires enough people. That inspires a whole bunch of customers, inspires a whole bunch of brilliant engineers. Tesla has no problem recruiting fantastic engineers and innovators. Car manufacturers, OEMs do. So, if your vision is only about making senior executives and shareholders richer, you've got to think again. You've got to create. Once you've got that vision, you've got to create a fantastic level of alignment in the organization. Go back to that probably apocryphal story of the janitor at NASA when Kennedy asked him what his job was, and he said, "Oh, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Everyone in the organization's got to believe that. And you've got to have this post-conventional culture where you've got psychological safety, you've got creativity, you've got innovation, you've got widely distributed leadership, and people have got to be really committed to delivering on that purpose and what you're trying to do. And they've got to have that. They've got to have the emotional regulation to not get triggered, to avoid disrupting people and maintain that psychological safety. So big changes around that. And then you've got to have leadership in particular has to have the bandwidth, the emotional mental bandwidth to be systems thinkers, to be paying attention to the future, and you've got to have very high levels of honesty and transparency and collaboration, especially at the senior levels in the organization. And you talked about that idea of a T-shaped leadership culture. You've got to have that exec level -1, -2, potentially -3. You've got to have collaboration across that. Tesla does that. Tesla has collaboration across its engineering, its electronics, its computing, its software. They're all collaborating with each other.
So in terms of change, do you think it will happen? Do you think how long can Ford, Mercedes, Toyota, VW last, and who are you placing your bets on and why? Because that's what it really comes down to, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I let you into a dirty secret. I'm a reformed petrol head. I mean, I still like fast cars, but no longer petrol cars. So I grew up with the car industry, and I have a lot of affection for these brands. Actually, I realize. So I really genuinely don't want to see them fail. I want, they've done some amazing stuff in the past, created some extraordinary products, and some of it you could even you could say was art. Some really beautiful stuff. So I don't want them to fail. I want them to succeed. I think VW are doing some good stuff. I think VW, partly ironically because of Dieselgate, they committed to EVs. They were obliged to commit to EVs. But I think they bought, this is getting quite esoteric, but they bought a very, very small company called Rimac, which is a Croatian company founded by an extraordinary engineer and innovator called Mate Rimac. And I think it's actually pronounced Rimac. I mean, he'd founded his own electric car company, and they consult to lots of car manufacturers about electrification of cars. I mean, you get an idea of how important he is when I tell you that VW almost gave Rimac Bugatti, and Mate Rimac is now chief exec of Bugatti Rimac as a company, and he's leading those, and Rimac is now part of VW. So I think if VW can sort of really leverage that capability, I think there's a lot of potential there. For the others, I think they've got to stop arguing internally. They've got to let go of the combustion engine really quickly, and they've got to be willing to completely disrupt their historical business model. As I said earlier, manufacturing, sales, really every aspect of the business model itself has to be challenged. So yeah, will it happen? I hope so. I think I don't give it a high probability though. I think there'll probably be consolidation in the car amongst the main manufacturers.
Fantastic. Lovely to chat as always.
Thank you, Emma.